I don't want to be doing friendly fire here, but I read this yes on Mediaite today, and it just really it depressed me. Uh, and then I went and just to do due diligence, I went through and I read the rest of the transcript of the exchange that occurred between Rush and a caller of his, who basically said that he didn't think that Rush was doing enough to get the Republicans to win. He's saying that Rush has failed his job of motivating the base, and that it's a terrible thing. And what is Rush? What are you doing to get votes out? And then he even asked, what is a guy from East Michigan, a Republican in East Michigan, to do? What is he supposed to do to help win an election? And Rush gives this bogus answer, deflecting the whole question, and goes on later in the hour to say that Rush is just he himself is just an entertainer, that it's just some guy on the radio. That's all he is. I'm just a guy on the radio, and he's blaming me. This caller's blaming me for not having a conservative, for not motivating Republican voters. I don't know. It rubbed me the wrong way, and I really want to know what you guys think. Is Rush Limbaugh and to in a broader picture, are radio hosts in general, are they supposed to be conservative talk radio hosts? Are they activists, or are they just entertainers? What is their role? What is it that they're supposed to do? I mean, is it just to be entertaining?
I think they have a broad enough audience that they have a little bit of a responsibility to be an activist. You see it on the left all the time. All of the personalities on the left, it seems, are activists, whether they're Hollywood musicians, other politicians, or almost everyone you can think of in Hollywood comes out with this leftist opinion. They're doing fundraisers, they're doing commercials, they're doing dumb videos like we watched last week with the Lena Dunham. So yeah, they're entertainers. That's their job. If they don't want to do it, I guess they don't have to. We can't force them to do it. But the other side is doing it, and that's a large reason why they're winning the culture war.
I think they need to be activists, absolutely. Look, the other side owns the media, academia, entertainment, the sports industry. They own every major mouthpiece to the American people that moves public thought. For our leading speakers to not be activists, my goodness, I think they need to be activists as well as entertainers. I'm not saying that it's their responsibility to move us all. I think that responsibility is ours. Okay, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't try.
Yeah. So here's the quote that this kind of is part of what really just made me really confused here. Rush said, "I'm not trying to motivate the Republicans. I don't think it's possible. I'm not even sure the Republicans want to win other than to get their committee chairmanships. I don't think the Republicans really care. I don't think that they want the job. I don't think that they want the pressure of leading. I don't think the Republicans want a smaller government at all. I don't think the Republicans want to reduce government. I just think they want to run it for a couple of years so they lose it again." Okay, so that response, first off, is basically saying that, oh, woe is us, the Republicans are just as bad as the Democrats. They're why bother? So right there, that's demotivating. Anybody who's a Republican, to me, did anybody get were you motivated by that statement?
No, that made me really upset, actually. And I thought we learned our lesson back in 2012 with all the primaries and all the attacks that were going on with the different candidates. We were our own worst enemies. Look, one of those candidates was going to become our nominee. So what are you going to do? Go around and say, oh, this person is terrible, that person is horrible, don't vote for them, don't vote for them, don't vote for them. Oops, wait a minute. Vote for them. Okay, everybody, let's vote for them now. It's time to vote for them. After you just trash-talked him, and that's exactly what he's doing with the party. I don't like a lot of the things that are going on in the Republican Party, but it's what we've got, and we got to start somewhere.
You know, and what I really didn't like, and Glenn Beck did the same thing, they drive away all these votes by telling everybody how rotten their own. Let's keep in mind, the Republican Party is the only numerically viable opposition to the Democrats right now. That's where we are in history. The Democratic Party is simply too big. Okay? You've only got one option. And here you've got these big voices like Glenn Beck, who I love, Rush Limbaugh, who I love, Laura Ingraham, who I love, and all these others coming out bashing our team. And then in the last couple months of the election, they try to get everybody to turn around and go vote because they realize we're about to lose an election. They did it in 2012. They did it in 2008. And it drives me nuts. They drive people away for 6 to 10 months, and in the last month or two, Glenn Beck did this exact thing. In the last month or two, he was begging people to vote for Romney. Well, it's a little late, Glenn. You got all your people so angry, they're going to stay home. And I love Glenn Beck. I'm a huge fan. Okay? But it's too late. The damage is done, and it really makes me angry.
Yeah, and what's really even more infuriating to me is, I mean, that thing that Rush said in that quote, it was talking about Republicans, like the the elected Republicans. But the question that the caller asked is not about it wasn't about the Republicans that are already elected. He was talking about the voters, the voter base, the Republican base. You keep giving us hope. We keep getting our clocks clean. 5 million less Republicans voted. We're losing. And the caller went on to say, if you had motivated us years ago, 4 or 5 more million people may have voted for the Republican candidate. And then Rush said, "Oh wait, this is my fault?" And I, far be it from me to blame this on Rush. I don't blame any election on Rush Limbaugh, none whatsoever. So the caller continues to go. The caller's talking about voters. The caller's talking about getting the base out, and Rush, instead of talking about the base, instead of talking about the people who are ostensibly his listeners, and saying why, answering the guy's question and saying, hey, this is why, whatever the turnout wasn't affected by me, or if it was, whatever. Instead of talking about the turnout, instead of talking about the voters, he deflects off into, oh well, the party is awful. So that's it. Well, the party is awful.
I was just going to say that's the vicious cycle that they're getting into. I'm not saying it's just Rush. I think anybody who is a public figure with an audience, if they're constantly talking down, be it the candidates or the party, you're going to demotivate the base, which means the base isn't going to turn out. And it's cyclical, and then it gets worse and worse until it snowballs worse and worse, and you've got a totally unmotivated, depressed base that doesn't want to go vote because you're telling them that the party is terrible, that nobody has any real motivation to change anything if they're a Republican.
Yeah, I mean, how can Mark Levin, who, once again, I'm a huge fan of his. I love Mark Levin. I'm sorry to keep couching into that, but I am. Okay? How can he just absolutely slaughter every Republican who isn't lock, stock, and barrel in agreement with him 99.9% of the time, and then in the aftermath of the election say, "Don't look at me, I didn't have an impact." Look, the people to blame are us out in the field, of course, because we're the ones either casting the votes or not. But none of us reach millions of people. And look, I think it's great to come out and say, here's what I'm down on the Republicans for. Bang, 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 bang. But always, always in the context of we got a war to win. We have to win the war. The consequences are too great. It's not good enough on the next day to blame people. It's much better to say, hooray, we won.
I think our activist entertainers, whatever we call them, they actually aren't activists. They're our political entertainers. We have a smaller crew because we just have our radio hosts and a few. Well, it's radio hosts and the one TV channel, whereas the other side has hundreds and thousands of activist political entertainers. So we put more into and expect more out of each one of our guys, and they have such a huge audience. It's an opportunity that they're missing. Um, Rush has a huge opportunity to really drive action and to really drive Republican outreach and activism and all of that. He chooses not to, and the caller today was asking him why, and Rush avoided the question. And that was really, I agree, it was extremely disappointing to read the evasion that Rush did. He did what we laugh at Jon Stewart for. Rush Limbaugh did the clown nose on, clown nose off routine, and that's disreputable in my book. He really did. I'm just an entertainer. I'm just here to increase advertising revenue. Anything you're expecting of me is wrong. And then, after the election, if the Republicans don't do as well as we could, which we won't, we could do better than we're going to. We're going to, in some races, we'll do better than expected, and in many races, we'll do worse. Because while we are listening to talk radio and reading the horse race polls about how good we are, the Democrats have their well-funded, well-heeled, genuine professional activists doing a bunch behind the scenes. Sorry about the language. You'll have to edit that out in post. But they're doing a bunch of stuff behind the scenes that we aren't doing. And they will sneak up on us with their get out the vote effort and with their Democrat straight party, Democrat straight ticket voting. We will lose judgeships down ticket. We'll lose a bunch of races, a bunch of little races that we shouldn't have lost. And that means that the Democrats will be in, their farm team and their low-level people will get the professional experience and start shaping things from a city and county level, and we won't have even noticed because we will win the Texas governor race, woohoo! But we'll lose some judgeships because a bunch of our people don't want to vote straight ticket Republican because only stupid people do that or something. And so we'll lose a bunch of judgeships, and the state will change in favor of Democrats. And that's because our professional talkers are not taking on the role of activist and educating the electorate. They're talking about the news, and they're talking about the horse race, and they're yelling and having their TV arguments because of the entertainment value. And I just think it's sad.
It disturbs me that this is the ground that there is, but it also disturbs me that we put that much responsibility on an entertainer, and a self-described entertainer. Although I agree with Leslie 100%. Rush dodged that, and equating him to Jon Stewart is exactly where JD went with it when he was bringing this to me. It was just exactly the same thing that Jon Stewart would do. Oh, well, I'm not taking responsibility for what anybody got out of what I did. I'm the entertainer. What you do with it is up to you. And I don't claim any responsibility about that. Yeah, that's a skeezy thing. Okay, I'm going to lay that out there too. But are we the kind of people that is who we're looking to for advice and for anything more than entertainment? Now, Rush Limbaugh got on the scene. Nobody was talking conservative politics in the culture until late 80s, early 90s, when Rush exploded onto the scene. But Rush is and has always wanted to be a radio guy, an entertainer. Did not sign up to carry the mantle of conservative politics. People thrust that on him. Yes, he talks big. He's got, your typical entertainer, large ego. Okay, get all that. But, and perhaps he did eventually claim that mantle, but it was not something that he started out with. It was sort of the big talk, hey, I'm an important radio host. This is, I've got all these listeners. I've got this great large audience. So what I tell them is important. He educated a lot of people on the strategy, on the sort of ground, the way that liberals operated. A lot of us never even thought. We got smacked in the face time and again from liberal tactics until he explained it. Okay, so he's educated a lot of people. But that's step one. Everybody is responsible for going out and making these things happen. And while I understand where the caller's coming from, I just, maybe this is just my bubble, which is outside the talk radio bubble, because I don't listen to any of these people anymore. I did, I don't now. And maybe it's just me, but I find it a little bit discouraging to me that people are listening to, the words of Rush Limbaugh talking about how bad the candidates are, and then just going home and staying there. That's on them.
It's on a lot of people. I mean, it's on the person who stays home just because they heard one thing and one piece of information and they decide to stay home instead of further looking into things. And it's on us as activists for not being able to counter the opinion of these large radio hosts in an effective manner to say, oh hey, well yeah, okay, Rush said this about this guy a billion years ago, so that's fine, but you should still go and vote for him because we need to have a conservative elected instead of a Democrat, or go through those things. But I mean, I think that there's a lot of blame to be pushed around there over whose fault it is for people staying home. But don't you think that there's I don't know, it drives me crazy to have that clown nose on, clown nose off thing enter into this discussion. It's not what I was expecting. It completely blindsided me.
And see, I was not surprised at all. Not a bit. Because I've heard that claim, I'm just an entertainer, or that I'm chiefly an entertainer, that is my job. Rush Limbaugh is not about building a movement. He's not about featuring activists. He's not about putting. When was the last activist anybody heard Rush feature? Or, I mean, yes, he'll read from blogs on air. He'll give a hat tip to, say, Sultan Kanish or somebody at Breitbart or something like that on occasion. But this is not what Rush does. He does not feature other people. He does not interview other people. He does not make his job promoting people who are doing the work. The last one I can remember that he had any kind of real promotion interest in was James O'Keefe. That's it. I can't think of anybody else. Now, it's been a while since I've listened. It's entirely possible that he has done that. But I've rarely seen him do the things that would support an activist type culture of getting things done. I've seen him, interview a couple of people that would be, candidates to set the record straight on something, to explain something. Rush is not in the business of promoting other people. A lot of the conservative movement is not in the business of promoting other people. They're not in the business of giving you options and help. They're in the business of making a name for themselves. You see it time and again. It's the way people are when they are attempting to make a name for themselves in entertainment. It's about the big story. It's about the shock value. It's about enraging you, angering you, motivating you to not go out and fix it, but to listen, to come back. That's what this industry is, which is why I abandon it, because I don't think it's helpful.
We
I don't
are,
know that I buy that though. I mean, I don't know that I buy that there's no level of activism, that there's no level of that the lines of entertainerdom, of him being an entertainer, is that clear cut. I think that he's done stuff in the past. I think that he's done. I mean, is it is it really that he is just an? I asked the question before. Is it really that he is just an entertainer? Does somebody who comes up with Project Chaos, was that a radio show host prank? That, to me, that sounds like something that is an activist type thing to do. That seems like it's something that, he's trying to get Republicans to go out and vote in Democratic primaries. Is that for a joke, or was he actually trying to affect change there? And if he was, in that case, then what has changed since Project Chaos that you know put him from the activism role into the role of a strictly entertainer? And if those lines did change, was there an announcement? Did I miss a memo that would have let me know? Oh, hey, Rush is not all about promoting conservatives and getting conservative politics be the base in America anymore. I mean, like, I don't know. And I'm not a
So
follower of Rush. I don't watch or I don't listen to Rush. So
what you're saying is that, okay, you're going to be so proud of me for this one. What you're saying is that the guys up in the announcer's box have actively participated on the field, and now they want to claim we're just the announcers.
precisely, that's the analogy. That analogy works fine.
You're welcome.
Can I
Thank
say?
you.
Let me say two things on this. Number one, obviously he's an entertainer, but you don't spend 3 hours a day advocating and then claim you're not an advocate, claim you're not an activist. He is. Okay, he is an activist. He is a leader by virtue of the size of his voice and his impact in our movement. And that's the way it is. And secondly, Corey and I just go on a radio show program once a week here in town. We go around and I speak and I do presentations. And afterward, I'll have a lot of people come up and they'll just be like, and they'll be very excited. This weight has been lifted. They see hope where there wasn't hope and so forth. And they get very excited. Here's what goes through my head. I could get a lot more people to like me really quickly by taking shots again and again at the Republican leadership. You can acquire huge popularity almost overnight by being another arrow shooter. That'd be so easy. It's so easy to do. But here's why I don't do it. I only want to advocate what's good for them. And dividing and getting allowing Democrats to be elected to where all we have to unite us is our mutual griping over the disaster that has befallen us is not good for them. And my message to Rush and to Mark Levin and all these guys is this. It's okay to hold these people's feet to the fire. I think that's outstanding. But if you don't do it in the context of advocating, look, here are the numbers. The greater good is to get these people in office. Not some of them, not the few that you really like, all of them. Because you need to get as many people as possible in the Senate to caucus with Ted Cruz. Okay? What they're advocating is not good for people. And then that's why they want to distance themselves from it. If what they were advocating was good for people and then we'd win, they would be trumpeting how they won in their advocacy and how great it feels. But because what they're advocating is bad for people, division that causes us to lose more and causes more elections of people who hate us and want to destroy us, okay? Then they want to call themselves entertainers. And I'm sorry, I think while they are entertainers, that's a cheap way out. When I'm on that radio or when I'm up speaking, I will not advocate for strategies that are going to hurt the audience I care too much about.
And that is why we like being a partner with you guys, because that attitude is so lost in so much of conservative interaction that we've found. And not just from us ourselves, but people that we know who have been completely beat down by that sort of negativity that's out there. And the sort of, bait and switch, not taking responsibility for what they have done. Personally, I'm not shocked at anything I've heard. It's shocking to me when someone says what you say. I'm not going to do things that hurt the movement. That's shocking.
Yeah, it is. It's just based on the averages, based on what we've heard from, you know, so many of these voices out there. I want to address what Rob has put into the chat. He went into the transcript and got some quotes from what Rush said. I can't control the Republican Party. I'm not the Republican Party. I don't have a thing to do with the Republican Party policy-wise. Nothing. It's why I'm writing children's books. I want people to know the truth of this country. They're being lied to about it every day in the media. They're being dispirited. My objective is to create the largest informed participating block of citizens possible, voting citizens in a responsible way. I don't think that his previous comments, his comments to Ted, I don't think that they jive with getting a participatory voting group.
Yeah, he seems to
It
have
doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. It's like he's, to use these sportsing analogies that Fishy started with, and everyone needs to appreciate the fact that the two non-sportsing people are talking sportsing stuff. I don't know that it's so much that Rush goes from the broadcast booth to the field, but he's going from the broadcast booth to the coaching sidelines. We want him to be our coach. We look at him and Beck and Levin as our coaches because we don't have any other coaches. They're the only choice we've got. So we kind of look to them as, well, can you be a coach? Are you my mother? And they will accept that job. They accept the position of being the coach of the conservative movement. But then when things get a little icky, or they haven't succeeded, or somebody asks them a question they don't really have an answer to, that's when they say, oh, I'm just in the broadcast booth, and I don't really, I'm just an entertainer. But then they'll go back down to the sidelines when it suits them, like Rush just said. So they're moving between the two jobs, and that's fine. It's what works for them, and a lot of people enjoy that and appreciate it. But we do need to recognize that that's what happens, and not always look at them as if they're coaches, because frequently they're going to decide, oh, you know what, this team's going to lose the game, so I'll just go up into the broadcast booth and comment on it because they're going to lose, and I'll still look good as a commentator rather than, I don't want to be the losing coach, so I'll go up and be a commentator.
Yeah, but he set up a straw man there by saying, I don't control the conservative movement. Rush, nobody said you did. We say you influence.
Help us. Help us, man. Help us.
And the question is, no one says you control us. That's a straw man argument. We say you influence us. And the question is, will you influence us toward our own good, toward the benefit of America, or will you influence us toward the division that brings about Democrat victory and the destruction of America?
But Christie was saying to him, you come here with your talking points, but you don't have the facts. Here are the facts.